Hi, my name is Shaye. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I yap and talk about whatever's on my mind. You're welcome to stick around and watch. Hopefully, you find it entertaining. Today, I wanted to talk about the big F word that a lot of adults don't like. A lot of kids actually handle pretty well, but a lot of adults don't like this F word. You, you you could raise it in conversation and completely distraught a lot of people or scare a lot of people, and it's feelings. I wanted to talk about feelings because I have had a lot of feelings lately, and specifically in the context of just we all have them. We all feel them. We you cannot go through life without feelings. But there's an interesting experience where you cross over from being a kid to an adult, and feelings become this thing that you're expected to package and know the time and place and manage very well, even though no one taught you when you were little how to deal with them, because most adults were suppressing them or packaging them in a certain way. So I just want to have an open conversation about feelings, because I've had a lot of feelings lately. I've had new feelings, which is another thing you realize. You're going to have new feelings, things you've never felt before. And it's an interesting thing when that happens. But feelings is one of those things that the people who have taught me the most about them are kids. and and specifically my squad. I said a few videos ago, I'm a proud auntie. So my nieces and nephew have they hold a special place in my heart, but they've taught me a lot. And spending a lot of time with them, you learn kids have absolutely no filter when it comes to their feelings. As a matter of fact, they wear it as a badge of honor. They are, I mean, if you ever hung out with a toddler, they will let you know in 2 seconds, you hurt my feelings. I have feelings. and and it took me a while as someone who came later in life to embrace feelings that expanded beyond happiness, anger, to really understand what was happening every time I would, whether or not I had the intent to hurt them, whether or not I, you know, even knew what I was doing affected them, to really hear them out when they say, "You hurt my feelings, Auntie." And it really also made me go, wow, they're so little, but they already have a grasp of how they feel. They can articulate it, and they could let you know when you've crossed a boundary, when you've done something to trample upon it. I didn't have that language at that age. I doubt I did. And so they're light years ahead of me, and I'm sure a lot of my peers. But what it also made me reflect on is like, wow, at what point do you lose it? Because clearly, when you're born as a kid, you feel things, you have language for it. But at what point does it become this thing where it's acceptable as kids to say it so openly and embrace it, to where you're an adult and it's like a taboo? And I say a taboo because I reflect on a workplace incidents that occurred where I was leading a team, and someone on another team had done something I deemed very disrespectful towards me. They had exhibited a behavior that I thought was very unprofessional, very unnecessary. And I tried communicating to them to resolve it, but they weren't hearing it. They doubled down on what they were doing. So I was like, all right, cool. I don't like to go this route, but I'm gonna go to your manager, because that's who my peer was, actually, the manager. So I approached this manager to say, hey, peer to peer, just so you know, this is what transpired. And I really felt like it could have been handled better. It's less about what happened, it's the manner in which I was spoken to. It's the manner in which things were handled that I think, again, we're managers. We're here to coach people. If you could take a moment to talk to this person. And that manager quickly let me know they weren't in the business of feelings. Like, we're here to work. shy. Like if things got done, what does it matter? You leave your feelings at the door. I mean, that wasn't verbatim what they said, but that's essentially the message I received. And I remember going, oh, well, damn, I missed the memo where you supposed to lock up all the feelings and throw it out the door when you come to work. Like, are we not humans here? you know? And of course, I'm well aware that particular person was someone who had this impression. Now, in hindsight, I can say that clearly. They were clearly someone of the opposite sex who their impression, I'm not saying this is all of all opposite sex, but their impression is if a woman voiced a complaint or an issue in a work setting and perhaps was passionate about it, I wasn't yelling, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't anything distraught, but I was pretty clear like, hey, this was a line that was crossed. It's emotional. It's emotions. It's women being emotional. That is how this person perceived things. So in hindsight, I realized that's why they were very much like feelings. No, we don't do that here. Was the work done? Did you get the deliverable? Okay, that's all that matters. And it stuck with me. It really stuck with me, right? Because like I said earlier, my nieces and nephew, the more time I spent with them and just saw how openly they embrace feelings, it never stopped things from progressing. It never stopped them from accomplishing whatever they wanted. Because if you've ever been around a toddler, they're gonna do what they want to do. They're gonna do it, or at least they're gonna try. So even if you hurt their feelings, they will rebound very quickly and get back to the mission. So I did have to say, so here I am watching kids exist fully in it. And I am in a full on global corporation with senior leadership, someone, you know, up here, and they're telling me we don't do that here. We can't, that doesn't exist here to get things done. And I thought, wow, what a stark experience. And when does this happen? Where we tell ourselves feelings are the bad thing. They're the thing you're not supposed to experience. And it's unfortunate because the more I allow myself to feel, now I should caveat with, I'm not saying feel everything endlessly and express it all the time and not know how to manage or self regulate yourself. No, by no means am I saying that. If you open that can of worms of feelings and you let yourself sit in them, the expansiveness of them, like I said, my primary emotions were hunger, anger, happiness. That's where I existed for a good amount of my life till I hit my 20s, you know? And things a bit more complex came in. But even then I didn't have the language for them, so it just defaulted back to anger, you know? Like if that's where you are and you are a little curious about what does it feel like to go beyond that or to etch beyond that, I say, one, seek out help because that's what I did. I mean, I've said that repeatedly in these videos. I get help when I need it. I sought out help. Like I said, I got therapy, and find coping mechanisms, but also allow yourself to feel. It might suck, but I think oftentimes we fear it more than the actual impact of it is. For example, if you've ever heard people say they feared something, they had like an illogical fear of something, and they finally went and faced it and overcame it, one of the first things you hear them say is, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like, it sucked, right? I was terrified to face it, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And I know that for a fact because like I said in other videos, I have done things like jumped off of tall structures and parasailed and like adrenaline sports, right? But I remember the first time I've ever done one that was new to me, I would be terrified. I'd be so terrified I wouldn't let myself believe I was gonna do it till I was actually doing it. I'd be like, I'm just gonna go look at that building. I'm just gonna go see what these straps feel like. I'm just gonna put on the outfit and see what it looks like. That's the narrative in my head. Because if I told myself, Shy, we're gonna jump out of the plane today. Well, before I'm in the plane, I'm not gonna get on the plane because of fear. It's a legitimate feeling, and that's there because yes, that's opposed to kicking your survival instinct. You're not supposed to like walk in front of a moving car. Like fear needs to exist, right? However, as you go through life and life happens, sometimes fear becomes bigger than it needs to be, right? So In the case of going back to adrenaline sports, just to, illustrate that sometimes facing the feelings is not as big as you think. Every time I have gone and just tricked myself to be in the setting where I had to do the thing, once I did the thing, first thing that comes to mind, it wasn't that bad. Actually, it wasn't. Most times I was like, you know what, that was awesome. I want to do it again. So I don't know what it is about adult programming um, and feelings. And I know this has to resonate with someone. You say the word, even just saying the word, you see a physical response from people like, oh, do we have to do that today? I've been in those relationships where you're like, I want to talk about feelings. Like, what? I gotta go. And I've also been the person in that relationship too. Let me not sit here and act like I'm gonna say I've been the person in relationships too that you like. I want to talk about feelings. I'm gonna call you right back. So it's interesting to me. It has taken me a long time and road to embrace that feelings are necessary. They're one of the many tools to get to know yourself, to get to understand yourself, to get to master yourself. So really ignoring them or avoiding them is doing yourself a disservice. And honestly, when you do that, it still shows up somewhere. Inevitably, even if you're not aware, it will pop up. You suppress your feelings long enough, it will show up. And sometimes it's going to be a physical manifestation in your body, which sucks. I have had that too, you know? So I'm not an expert, but if you ask my opinion, I say if you're someone who hears feelings and skedaddles like I used to, slow down for a bit. Sit with it. It might not be as bad as you think. Hear that person out. It might not suck as much as you think. Feel that feeling. And even the new feelings. Because I felt this past week, I felt contentment for the first time at 42. Because I'm no different than most people who exist in this day and age, right? Like, most of us are in that constant state of aspiring for the next thing or reflecting on the thing that we didn't get and we could have done and how could we have done it better. That was my constant state of existence. I'm either looking forward or looking back. I was never truly 2 feet on the ground present, experiencing what was happening until last week, doing the most simplistic thing ever, painting. I was painting. Nothing Picasso-esque, just painting in the quiet of my home. And I realized after I had done it for about 45 minutes to an hour, like there was a certain peace I had. My brain wasn't going forward or back or analyzing the painting or thinking of like it wasn't dead. It was a calm. So much so that I felt like I could have done it for hours and been perfectly fine and needed nothing or no one or did not need a distraction. Didn't even need music in the background. And the light bulb went off where I remember having a conversation with my acupuncturist years ago where he was like, you need to work on contentment. And I was like, please. What? Please, I am a driven person. I got things to do, places to go, people to see, contentment. How can you be content? I'll be content when I die. Like, that was my vibe, right? And I experienced it painting. And I was like, oh my God. That was a new feeling. And it was absolutely amazing. And if you've never felt it, I truly feel you. I pray you feel it sometime because you realize you need nothing. You need no one else. You really just need to be present. Um, yeah. So that prompted me to say, I want to have an open discussion about this F word that I have avoided most of my adult life feelings. I was that person. Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to analyze it. Didn't want to think about it. It overwhelmed me. But I think I'm finally getting to a place where, again, I would never say it would never overwhelm me, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm curious not only about the feelings I've had, but the feelings I haven't even had yet. Imagine when you're like, shit, there's a whole tray. There is so much of them. What about the ones you've never had because you were so busy suppressing the ones you had? Don't know what you're missing out on. Anyway, that was today's ramble, was about the F word feelings. I hope it resonates with someone. I hope your week is going well. And we'll see what the next one brings. All right, y'all have a nice one. Bye.